was Adama Barrow's second swearing-in ceremony, but this time it was on home soil. And it ended weeks of a political standoff with former President Yahya Jammeh, whose 22-year dictatorship had drained the Gambia's economy, forced critics into exile, and isolated the country from the international community. By 2015, the Gambia's national former President Yahya Jammeh, whose 22-year dictatorship had drained the Gambia's economy, forced critics into exile, and isolated the country from the international community. By 2015, the Gambia's national debt stood at $1 billion, with nearly half of the population living in poverty. Barrow promised to revive the economy, create jobs and restore freedom of speech. But 1 year on, some say little has changed.
Food prices are still the same, salaries are not increased, the health sector is in shambles, the education sector is a farce, the public transport sector is... so nothing has changed.
Barrow has freed hundreds of political prisoners and set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to investigate human rights abuses committed under the former government. But some critics say justice is too slow. The Gambia is one of Africa's smallest nations, with a population of about 2 million. And yet, they rank among the top 5 nationalities that risk their lives crossing the Sahara and the Mediterranean via Libya to try find a better life in Europe.
3 times they catch me. Go and come. I spend a lot of money. I destroy many things. So you see, so all what I need to go back to my country. I'm tired. I suffer in Libya. Libya is nothing here. They treat us like animals.
Barrow's government is receiving development aid from the EU to assist people like Ibrahim. The country also rejoined the Commonwealth this month after it withdrew in 2013, citing an anti-Gambian propaganda by the West.
When Gambia left, it was a great moment of sadness. Sadness for the Gambia, sadness particularly for the Gambian people. So it's a coming home. Having the Gambia come back to the Commonwealth family has been a real moment of rejoicing.
The Gambia is hoping to attract international investors like Turkey. Ankara already gives humanitarian assistance to the Gambia and scholarships to hundreds of Gambian students. And in a recent visit, Barrow had talks with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan ahead of next year's OIC summit, which the Gambia is set to host.
The relations between Turkey and the Gambia is not just for the good of the two countries, but it also has international benefit. The Gambia will host the next OIC summit, and I'm very glad to entrust that responsibility with them. And we will continue to support them by all means.
It's been more than a year since Gambian President Adama Barrow took office, ending more than 2 decades of oppressive rule by former President Yahya Jammeh. 1 year on, there have been some reforms, and the country enjoys greater freedom of speech. But many Gambians are still expecting the new Gambia Barrow promised. And while President Barrow was on a state visit to Ankara, I asked him why the change he promised isn't happening as fast as many Gambians expected, and what the collaboration with Turkey could mean for his country. Mr. President, this is your first state visit to Turkey as president, and you met with President Erdogan. What was the outcome of that meeting?
It's my first visit, as you said. Yes. We have a long tete-a-tete meeting, ranging from different issues. But I think if you look at the background of the Gambia, we have passed through a transition period. And Gambia was disconnected from the world. When we came to power, this was something that we have to work on, to bring back the Gambia on the spotlight, to connect the Gambia to the world. This was part of what we have to do. And I was invited by the president of this great country and a great leader. It was a big opportunity for me to respond to this invitation positively. Basically, we discussed a lot of things, but the most important was about the OIC. He's the current chairman, and the next host is the Gambia. So I'm looking forward to be the next chairman. So that was, I think, the biggest issue that was discussed yesterday.
How significant is that, hosting OIC Summit for the very first time ever
It's
for
very,
Gambia?
very significant. It's very significant for different reasons. The OIC family is a big family. Significant in that aspect. Gambia as a small country hosting the OIC, that makes it also very significant. And I'm just 1 year in office. I think it will be an honor to host such a big event.
You became president at a very precarious time in Gambian politics, in Gambian existence. Post-Jammeh era, Jammeh committed a lot of notorious human rights atrocities, and the victims of those crimes are still seeking closure. 1 year into office, sir, some of them, most of them, have not received justice for some of those crimes. What's going to happen now to those victims? Are they ever going to get justice?
Running a country or a government is a process, a system. And I think exactly we are doing that. We are following the due process. Two wrongs cannot make a right. That's why we have set up commission of inquiries. The truth and reconciliation. Before we can do anything, we have to establish the truth first. Then that will determine what will be our next action. We have to get to the bottom of whatever happened. Then that's the time we can decide which way. As far as we are concerned, I think we are on the right track. We are following the due process. We contested election based on the principles of democracy. It cannot be business as usual. If it remains so, the purpose of our coming will be defeated.
How far are you willing to go with the findings of the Truth and Reconciliation Committee? If Jammeh is found wanting, would you support extraditing him?
I think I have made my statement very, very clear. We have set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We want to make sure we get to the bottom of everything that happened in that country. But then that will determine, that will dictate what will be our next move.
What do you say to those who say the process is too slow and nothing might come out of it?
Yes, it's a newfound democracy. And everybody was part of the change. We are united. And everybody is part of, everybody has the right to his opinion. But as far as we are concerned, as far as the government is concerned, as far as the people who are supporting in the process are concerned, the multilaterals who are part of it, I think we are on the right track. Rome was not built in a day. These atrocities were not, it took about 22 years. They were not committed in one day. It's time. And we have to get to the bottom of everything, due process.
I'm going to ask you a quick follow-up to that question, and it's still about human rights. Restoring free speech to Gambia, especially to young people who looked forward to it. Many of them who grew up under President Jammeh. They grew up in silence. They're not used to speaking their minds, and you promised them that. But recently, civil rights societies are saying that it looks as though they're losing in on free speech again, and I'm referring to Dr. Ismail Sase, who was arrested recently for speaking his mind on to a newspaper. Sir, some say that you don't take criticism.
I don't want to take it personal. On principle, we came from a very difficult situation. And we are very concerned about our security situation in that country. As we speak, we still have foreign troops in my country who have to intervene during the impasse for us to get a peaceful solution that is top in our priority. Military rule in the country for 22 years. It was very difficult to distinguish who is a military, who is police, who is an intelligence. It's a very sensitive issue. We will not want people to incite violence, to make stories that will take us back to the Jammeh's era. You have the right to your opinion. We believe in that, but you also have to be careful and you have to take responsibility. That's why we are very concerned about security. If you talk about security, I think it's the right of the police to question anybody if it is within the law. The law says 72 hours to question somebody and find out what is the information all about as far as you are talking about security. I think this is within the law. He's not above the law. I am not above the law. Nobody is above the law. I think if you look at the TV these days, the police are inquiring about the prime minister in Israel. He's the prime minister, but he's not above the law. So nobody is above the law. We want to work within the law. Police can question anybody, at least for a duration of 72 hours.
You said we still have regional troops in the country. Activists are also questioning why you still have ECOMIG in Gambia when Gambia has an army.
This is not the first time you have foreign troops in a foreign country.
But for how long?
Foreign troops have been in Liberia for long, in other countries. Not the Gambia, it didn't start in the Gambia. But the impasse that happened in the Gambia, that impasse makes us to get those foreign troops in our land. And I think they played a very important role to defend the Gambian people, to defend our constitution, to make sure the voice of the Gambian people is respected. I think they did a very good job. As I said, it's a process. We are going in for reforms. In those reforms, I think the security is part of it. They cannot just leave prematurely. We have to reform our country. We have to reform the security sector. That's why we want to educate them. I am the Minister of Defense. Every minister works towards your ministry. I think I'm doing that to make sure I have one of the best army in Africa. And I want that to be part of my legacy, so that the process of democracy will continue. We lay a very strong foundation. This is what we want in that country. And I think the military have a very important role as far as democracy is concerned, to educate them so that they know the dispensation, how to operate in a civilian government, in a democratic process, in a democratic government. They're very significant. If they are part of the democratic process, they accept it, then that means the Gambia will move on. And we are very concerned about that.
So what would you say to the rumor mongering about you not confident in your own army? That's why you haven't visited any military camps since you resumed office?
Well, why single out the military alone? I didn't visit the police. I didn't visit the customs. They generate our income for us. I didn't visit them. I didn't even visit the Vice President's office. Why the army?
Why the army?
Why? That's why I'm asking. Why single out the military? They are part of the system. They are part of Gambia. They are part of the government. They are as important as other institutions. I didn't visit any institution.
2 of the lieutenants that fled with Jammeh sneaked back into the country, and you called that situation a breach of security. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, it was a failure on our side, the side of the security. But as I said, it will take us time. It's a process to make sure our security forces are trained, they have capacity to handle such situations. I think that is an issue that everybody should think about as far as you're a Gambian.
You got the internationals to believe in Gambia again. I'm talking about IMF. You released political prisoners. Everyone was excited for Gambia in that regard. You canceled Jammeh's plans to withdraw Gambia from the International Criminal Court, but unfortunately, not much has changed for the Gambia in terms of economy. Do you have an economic plan to take Gambia to the destination you imagined when you became president?
I don't think that question is very fair on our side. I think a lot have changed as far as Gambia is concerned. We took over a government that have less than 1 month import cover. Within a short period of time, we can now proudly say we are 4 months import cover as far as Gambia is concerned. And we have stabilized the economy. Currently, the governor of the central bank is the governor of the year in Africa for turning the corner. I think we have achieved a lot. Our income have increased by 20 to 25%. Borrowing have gone down. Treasury bill interest have gone down. It was 23%, now it's less than 10%. Banks interest rates, 28%, 30%. It's less than 20%. I think the question was not fair to me and to the Gambian people.
If you look a young Gambian in the face right now, what would you say your
You
plans
have to build a
recovery?
strong foundation. You have to win the confidence.
How long would that take, Mr.
That's what
President?
we did in 1 year. The jobs will come very soon. Because now the tourism sector, it used to be 6 months. Now it's going year round. We are expecting big hotels coming. Over 10,000 beds will be built. And we are expecting to create 25,000 green jobs. I think a lot is happening. But we cannot change everything one day. We cannot employ everybody within 1 year.
Now that
Even 5 years is not enough.
That brings me to my next question. Mr.
Even
President.
5 years is not enough.
When you campaigned, one of the points that got you those votes, Mr. President, was the fact that you want to come to Gambia to help reform the system and step back. You said 3 years. You said 3 years, Mr. President.
If you are campaigning,
What changed?
you can say all sort of things. But if you get to office, you face the reality.
What were the realities you faced?
This is the ones I'm telling you now. I never thought that Gambia is less than 1 month import cover. I never thought so. I never thought Gambia is looted up to that level. I never thought so. Even the crime rate, I never thought that it is up to that level. I never thought so. But when you get to the office, now you face the reality. The reality is we have a mountain to climb.
Even 5 years is not enough?
It's not enough.
So you're going for a second term, Mr. President?
I'm not saying I'm going for a second time, but I say it's not enough. It can be possible, it might be somebody else, but one thing is important. We want to build a strong foundation for that country. We want that to be part of our legacy, so that others who will come after us will not feel the same as we are feeling today.
Jammeh still has a lot of supporters in Gambia. Which means every now and then they're going to protest and come up with all kinds of protests. Mr. President, are you working on bringing some of those who are now your biggest critics
You want to
on
bring
board?
everybody on board. As far
How
as
do
Gambia
you
is
want to do
concerned.
that, Mr. President?
Because I've always said it. We were united, that's why we were able to defeat the dictator. And believe me, with or without coalition, I was destined to be president. It's not easy to come up as a candidate within a period of 3 months you are in power. When I toured the country as my party's candidate, that turned everything in the Gambia. My crowd was the biggest crowd ever in the history of that country. And it was with my party. It was not coalition by then. That forced everybody to the table. That we can make a difference, that we can make this change, that gave us that confidence and everybody to come on board. And that was just with my party. There was no coalition by then. The records are there. So if I say I was destined to be president, I think you'll agree with me.
But Mr. President, what do you say to critics that call you an accidental president? What do you say to people who said you've never had any political experience? The best you had was 3 months of that position as a treasurer of your party, and now you're president, and people feel that some of the failings of your 1 year is because you've never been a politician.
I'm a political animal. I've been part of the politics. I was there to help the process. Because I've seen people who have been suppressed in that country. So I feel that I should be part of that process to end the suffering of the Gambian people. Yeah, a lot of people are talking today, but they were there. When we wanted to gather a flag bearer for my party, we make it open. We advertise it. Every Gambian who want to apply to become a candidate. We receive 2 applicants. The 3rd applicant was myself. I never even wanted to apply in the first place. But people were behind me to say apply. My family never wanted me. But it was a national call. I answered to the call. So it's not by accident. The process is we were 3 who applied. 26 out of 26 voted for me. We got to the next stage. The next stage was the coalition. 4 candidates. We have a medical doctor. We have a sociologist. We have a former teacher and a seasoned politician. I contested against them. I was again, I imagine, a winner from that process. Not a winner, absolute majority. I scored 308 votes. The nearest rival got 75 votes with all their experience and everything. So it was a process. It was not an accident.
What was going through your mind when Jammeh refused to step down? Remember, you were sworn in another country. Did you for once just consider just pulling out?
It was even a coincidence for me to be sworn in another country. I've never planned to leave that country. People have called me, your presidents have called me, this man will kill you, leave this country. I said, no, I am the next president. I have no doubt in my mind that I'm the next president. I don't know how it is going to happen, but I was the next president. All the indications were there. So I was never afraid.
Do you still feel the same now?
I was never afraid, but I will say fortunately, when the negotiations were on, they needed me to go and meet some of the presidents in Mali. This is how it happens. We even called, the president was called to be informed about it. As negotiations are going on, other presidents are in Mali, they want to say the president-elect. This is how it comes. That's it. We say, okay, I think let's take the chance.
Your final word for the Gambian people?
Final word to the Gambian people is, we were united to defeat the dictator. We got to a level, psychology, where we feel that we cannot do it. But because we were united, we were strong. I want the Gambian people to continue on that track, continue the same spirit of unity. We believe if we are united,